Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. Sorry if you can hear my dog back there, but I got a little something that I want to talk about right now, and we're going to talk about it. We are going with the floating head, Brendan, today, so enjoy that and appreciate that while it's here. Also, if you're watching this video shortly after its upload, I am probably live on Twitch right now playing Persona, so come check that out if you would like to. All right, let's talk a little bit about a story that came out earlier today concerning Ben Johnson, but mostly, from my perspective, concerning Mike Macdonald, the Washington Commanders, and the Seattle Seahawks. And really, I want to talk about Jody Allen's role in this. And by this, I mean this head coaching hire, which has produced a head coaching candidate that a vast majority of Seahawks fans are on board with. And I use that phrase for a reason. A vast majority of Seahawks fans are on board with this hire. There are definitely candidates out there that would not have had that effect. You could have gotten a Dan Quinn, and that would have, I don't even know if splitting the fan base is the right term. That would have probably had most people just annoyed and disgusted. It could have been a Vrabel. A lot of people would not have been into that. It could have been a Mike Kafka. Most people, it seemed like, were down on that one. So coming away with a head coach that almost everyone in the fan base is at least on board with is no small thing. I'm sure that there were a decent number of people out there who would have preferred a Ben Johnson or a Jim Harbaugh or a Mike Vrabel, but even those people, by and large, are behind the Mike Macdonald hire. So that's big, and there are teams out there that made hires that probably did not meet that standard. Like, I can pretty much guarantee you that Washington fans are probably very split on the Dan Quinn hire. So, I want to talk about how that happened, and I want to talk about Jody Allen's role in this, because the thing to understand about Jody Allen and owners in sports in general is what their goal really is. Their goal is to make money. Their goal is to have a team that is as profitable as possible. And for a vast majority of owners, regardless of what they may say, that is the priority over winning and championships. So I take a look at something like what the Seahawks did over this offseason, where number one, you fired Pete Carroll. And here's the thing. From an owner perspective of trying to make money, Pete Carroll was doing his job. He was. Because from an owner's perspective, the goal is not really to win the Super Bowl so much as it is to just be decent or better. The goal really is to just be relevant throughout the whole season. And there are owners out there who would protest that and say, no, I want to win championships. I only care about winning. I only care about titles. But I think that deep down, every single owner out there, with maybe one or two exceptions in all of sports, would say, look, if we can just win more than we lose and occasionally win a playoff game and most years make the playoffs, I'm good. I think most owners would think like that. I think that's why you're seeing what's going on in Dallas right now, where you have an owner, Jerry Jones, who basically never fires coaches anymore. He lets them play out their contracts no matter what happens because he doesn't want to have to spend the extra money on a new coach. And I think that owners, of course, if they happen to win a Super Bowl on the way, that's great, that's awesome, that's cool. But at the same time, they know that if they want to extend themselves to actually try to force the issue, that's going to cost a lot of money. You're going to have to pay out a lot of guaranteed money to players because you're going to give out big contracts. You're going to have to overpay in free agency because you pretty much always overpay in free agency. You're going to have to pay coaches big money to come in here. Like, Jerry Jones, just as an example, he can either stick it out with Mike McCarthy, whose contract is actually very reasonable, or he can fire McCarthy, pay him anyway, and hire somebody like a Bill Belichick for an exorbitant amount of money. Like, we're talking probably 20 mil plus a year, and hope that it produces better results. You maybe can spend money on the facility, spend money on the stadium. You can do all these things. But here's the thing. It doesn't guarantee results. You can do it, and it's going to increase the likelihood of good results, but it's not going to guarantee anything. So a decent chunk of the time, you're going to spend all those resources on better players, better coaches, better facilities, and still end up with okay results that you could have had for much, much less money. So, given the fact that success is not guaranteed in this league, or any sports league for that matter, you're usually, as an owner, better off cutting corners, pinching pennies, and just trying to do enough to put together a team that is decent. And from that perspective, Pete Carroll was doing his job, right? As much as I have criticized him over the last several years, which I stand by, he was doing his job from the owner perspective of producing a team that was relevant. We had one bad season in the last several years, the 2021 season. That was bad. That was a 7-win team that was lucky to get to 7. I think that was more like a 5 or 6-win team that happened to win 7. Other than that, every year we are either in the playoff race in the final minutes of the final game, or we actually make the playoffs. And that's enough to keep the fan base engaged. That's enough to sell out your home games, and that's enough to make money. So most owners, I think, would have been okay with that. Jody decided, look, I'm not okay with it. And she fired Pete Carroll. And the thing is, Pete Carroll was actually making big money. But he's making that big money anyway for this year. So Pete Carroll, I believe, is making $15 million. Now, there's no salary cap, and Jody Allen's got money, but that's still $15 million that you have to give somebody who is going to be having a very minimal role in the team this year. And then you have to go hire the next guy. And, forget even Dan Quinn. Forget Mike Vrabel. Forget those guys. If you really, really wanted to do it, you could have hired some low-level guy, probably a couple $1,000,000, maybe even like a 1-year or 2-year deal. You would have been able to find somebody who's just kind of like a placeholder. You would have been able to find somebody who was a little, not very well-known assistant. You could have gotten somebody like Adam Stenavich from Green Bay as your head coach, probably very, very cheap, and just hoped that he would be good enough to keep the team relevant to where you can at least sell out your home games. And if you get lucky, maybe sneak in as the 7 seed and get a little bit of extra playoff money. Like, you could have done that. If you really didn't care that much about winning and only cared about money, you could have decided, look, I'm already paying Pete Carroll $15 million to not coach me. I'm only going to be willing to spend a couple million more on somebody who will coach me. But according to this story, and this is where I'm getting to here, that's not what happened. Condota has the tweet here. The original tweet came from a couple of writers like Rossini from ESPN, or I'm not sure if Rossini's with ESPN anymore. But the Commanders were going after Mike Macdonald very hard after Ben Johnson took his name off the board, and they pushed and pushed and pushed. But Jody Allen swooped in with more money, and Washington eventually had to back out. And Seattle also went to 6 years on the contract, which Washington supposedly was not willing to do. So Mike Macdonald could have been given that job that was a very short distance away from his current job. Remember, he's the Baltimore coach. They're right next to each other, Washington, Baltimore, basically. But he decided to move cross country because Jody Allen made it worth his while. And again, I want to stress this. She didn't have to do that. She could have maybe even gone after some old retread, like a Raheem Morris might have been like considered along those lines. Now, he was gone pretty quickly in the cycle, but maybe you could have gone after him more aggressively than you did. You could have maybe pulled some guy out of retirement who would have been just happy to have a job. And all those things probably would have been cheaper than Macdonald. Now, we don't know what Macdonald's contract is exactly, but it's apparently the most money any first-time coach has ever been paid in the history of the NFL. So, in some regard, it is a record-breaking, market-setting contract for a first-time coach. So, this is no joke. This contract that we gave Mike Macdonald is a pretty committing contract, and it's biting into the profits from the Seattle Seahawks over the next half-decade plus. And I just want to take this video to talk about how Jody Allen is showing that she really cares. And she cares in a way that I'm wondering if even other owners care about. Like, we've been saying for a while now that Jody Allen's just a caretaker owner and she's looking to sell the team ASAP. And don't get me wrong, she still could be, right? Like, this is an investment. If Mike Macdonald is good and he produces good results for the next several years, by which we're talking actually winning playoff games and making deep runs in the playoffs, the team is worth much more than the money you're paying him. Because if I had to guess, I'd say the contract might be like 6 years, $60 million, $66 million. You can make up that $10 to $11 million a year easily if the team is actually doing well. Like, home playoff games alone are going to just absolutely kill it for you. But beyond that, again, I have to ask, is she sticking around beyond the next couple of seasons? Because that time limit for her to be able to sell the team is coming up very soon here. I think it's in like 5 months or something, 4 or 5 months. Now, she won't sell the team immediately, we know that. But is she going to start the process? Or do moves like this indicate she's in it for the long haul and she's in it to win it? Because she has the money. Like, this is not a Al Davis, what's his son? The bowl cut guy. This isn't the Al Davis son situation where they don't have money. No, she's got money. Now, she has to sell the team in theory, but there is a way for her to actually effectively sell it to herself. So I'm not too worried about that part of it. The part of it that I'm trying to figure out now is, does she want it? And she has the money to be a good owner, and she's showing the willingness to do what it takes to be a good owner as well. Again, when the Commanders, who by the way are owned by currently Josh Harris and several other entities as well, Josh Harris himself is worth just shy of $10 billion, so that's the guy you just outbid for the hottest remaining coach on the market. You could have gone another way. You could have been like, no, I'm not matching that. I'm not spending that money on a coach. I'm already spending $15 million on Carroll. Find somebody who will work for like $3 million a year or $4 million a year. Find this version of Mike McCarthy. Find somebody who's been out of the league for a year or two, who will be okay, who will keep our head above water, allow us to make money, and allow us to be relevant. Even though we won't be great, who cares? I'm still going to make my money. She didn't do that. She outbid Josh Harris. So that's really what I wanted to talk about in this video. Shout out to Jody Allen. She's doing some great work right now, it looks like to me. And she's acting like somebody who wants to be here for a while. She's acting like somebody who actually wants to continue to own this team. And I'm excited to see what happens next with this whole process. Because the moves like this, where you fire a coach and pay him out $15 million to go away, and then you're paying probably another $10 to $11 million a year on a new guy who's unproven but clearly very appealing. These are the moves that owners who really, really want to win it all will make. These are the moves that an owner who doesn't care that much about losing money make. Like, this could blow up. This could be a disaster. It could be. Mike Macdonald could be an awful head coach. We could have a terrible team that doesn't sell out their home games. All that stuff is totally possible. So I do think that there is risk here, but the risk is worth the reward to me as a fan. But for most owners, it might not be. Again, look at Jerry Jones. The risk of him trying to find a coach who is better than Mike McCarthy is not worth the reward to him because he's already got the reward in his mind. He's got a team that is good enough to keep people interested throughout the season. All right, so let me know what you guys think about this. See you guys on Twitch maybe. If not, another video, maybe another video coming later today, but more than likely I'll see you guys tomorrow. And yeah, that's what I want to talk about. Go Hawks. Congratulations, Jody. You're doing some really interesting stuff here, and we'll see if it works out. But right now what I can tell you is that it's a good move. It may not be a move that works out, but these are good moves. These are good decisions. And as of right now, it's starting to look like we might have our long-term owner. And that may not be a bad thing at all. All right, catch you guys later. Go Hawks.